Hello everyone and welcome to the first tutorial series in the channel. So this is a pretty big topic to dive in as a first series, but it's a very important one that I chose especially for most of you who haven't tackled this issue yet, especially as beginners or intermediates. But it's a very important one and there is a huge lack of information about this. So the topic today would be the responsiveness of a combat. I know it's a very vague topic. It can be multiple elements, but for me specifically, it's about two key things. I'll be mentioning those in the video today. But first, I want to highlight a few things here. The responsiveness of the combat depends first on the type of game you're trying to make. Our focus in the channel is our RPGs or action RPGs specifically. So we're talking things like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro, Final Fantasy, and these types of games. So the most important two key elements here would be the fluidity of the animations and the inputs handling. Specifically, we'll be covering the inputs handling in this one. So what I'll be using as a reference would be the old demo I worked on with the Dark Souls 3 that you can see right now. I'll be using this to specify or to showcase you some important elements that we are going to cover in this video. This is mostly an introduction video, so there's nothing big we are going to work on, like nothing hands-on mostly. I'll tell you if there's anything that you need to do. But for now, I just want to highlight the most important part of the video, which is the input buffering. So the input buffering, the way how it's done, dictates how the combat will feel to you and the person who's going to play your game. So input buffering plus the fluidity of the combat, like we mentioned. For example, I'm gonna click play here and I'm gonna showcase something about dodging, for example. So if I walk and I click dodge, you can see the dodge begins and ends. So the fluidity here is important. So for example, if I go to the dodge animation that I have, and if I slow it down to some weird value, and I try it, if it's too quick or too slow, it will affect the fluidity and the responsiveness of the combat in general. So the pace of it, the speed of it, and the movement it actually has. So for example, if we go to the animation, and you don't have to worry about this. This is more for animators in general, but it's good to know this as a programmer. So knowing these values will actually help you in solving issues regarding this specific topic. So we can see the root motion actually working here. So it moves from this point down to this point around. So this is how much the animation will cover. So we have a concept in the animations in Unreal called in place versus root motion animation. Now root motion has its own complications when it comes to multiplayer, but that's not our topic. In place is usually used for upper body animations. We will come to that later. But this is the most important thing here. So animations are important aspects. You can't just, even if you have the best input buffer handling in the world, you cannot have a good feel to the player if the animations are bad made or they don't fulfill the purpose or uh, the idea you're trying to implement. So this is point number one. Point number two is the input buffer, which you can see both of them here, but I don't want to use the roll as an example. Instead, I want to use the combo attack. The combo attack is what we want to try to achieve in our tutorial series. So we'll focus on the combo attacks and the relations between combo attacks to buffering the input. So here we have notifies, and I want to highlight a few things here. This is not very beginner friendly. It's a little between a beginner and an intermediate, but it can solve a purpose. So as an idea, it can be. It's actually good to know how things work. So we have an animation montage, and you have notifies within the montage. If you try to do any combat tutorial series or any animation related uh, projects, you will use something called a montage, and the montage has a bunch of notifiers or notifies states that exist within the animations themselves. So when it comes to input buffering specifically, it's important to relate between the timing of the input and the relation with the montage. So it differs per type of montage. Sometimes if you have an attack, you don't want to allow a specific attack to happen again unless it's in the right timing or the right montage running. So if we go from here to any third person project that you have, so I created a new one, third person template, and I added a gray stone to it. Now you can follow along here if you want. If you ever get this error, just play in editor. This is the main character walking around, but we don't want to use the regular character, we want to use Greystone instead. Now, Greystone is 8 years to 10 years old product, so by the time they have actually a already combo buffering existing within Greystone itself, I'll be highlighting here as well. And this is what we find mostly in YouTube. But this is not a good option, and I'll be highlighting why. So the first thing to do is if you open it and you already have compile issues, and by the way I'm using 5.4.4, so if you're using older versions you may not get this type of errors, but this highlights that this is actually old and right now it doesn't serve the purpose it actually needs to serve. So I want to go to the regular character that we have once you click play, and from this character we'll be moving the inputs to the Gravestone character so we can actually use it. So if you go to World Settings, if you don't have it, you go to Window and then World Settings, and you'll have it open on the right. I want to expand this part, and I want to open the pawn itself. If you click on the Browse button, it will go exactly where it is. And I want to take this movement part, and I want to move it, so copy it to Greystone itself. And I just want to delete all this because all of it is completely gone right now. It will not do or serve any purpose. So if I add it here and compile, it should work just fine. And I want to replace the character with Greystones. I'm just going to type in Greystone here. And let's try. Now, if you click play, now we have Greystone and everything should work fine. If you click left mouse button, even the montages should run. By the way, if you get this shadowing issue, it's because of virtual shadows. So if it bugs you too much, just go to project settings and type shadow. Now if you play, this issue is solved, but I wouldn't suggest you doing this, but for the purpose of this video I'm just gonna hide it. Now when it comes to combo attacks and the correlation between that and the input buffer, so let's go to the montages that, let's close this one first. So the montages that Greystone is actually playing, and you'll find it under this big sized blueprint here. So this is the montage, and it goes from primary A to primary B and then to primary C. But you will also note here that they're using notifies. Now I don't want to dive into the notifies and how they're used. Instead I want to show you a few issues here. So let me use left mouse button and I want to play montage right away. Now if you do this method, which is the very basics of basics, if you spam that thing, you'll be stuck within the same montage. Input buffer doesn't work that way. So you want to limit the player from using attacking. So what you would not mostly see is something like, if this one runs, I'm attacking, something like a bully. You don't have to follow here, I'm just showcasing things. And if I am attacking, simply don't attack. So by the first time it will be false, so it will pass here, and then it will be true. But then you'll have to know when the animation ends, and so therefore they tell you reset combo, which will go to the animation blueprint, reset combo, which will call this function, which is attacking to false. Now, two issues here. One, while I can't spam correctly until the thing is over, I can't move to the next portion of the montage unless I do this whole part. And to be frank, I find this very confusing and unneeded. The reason I'm saying this is, first of all, you created save attack is attacking an attack count, and plus melee speed, but let's not mention melee speed. Let's just assume it's the same value. Now 3 variables for just a simple attack combo. This is fine on a scale level, but on a bigger level, like let's just say Dark Souls level or any action RPG level, you have a regular light attack, you will have a special attack, and maybe even a heavy attack. And depending on the scale of your game, if you have multiple weapons associated, you might end up with 15 overall. Let's say for example you have 3 weapons and you have combo attack, which sorry, light attack, heavy attack, and special attack. So that's 3. And you wanna add 3 types of weapon. 3 by 3 is 9. So you need something like 9 variables, and that's not scalable. By the time you stop working on combo attacks and work on something else, if you wanna come back here, you'll be like, why did I do this, or how was it done? So you're still gonna start scratching your head as to how things were actually done. So this is a good way to do it if you're doing it on a basic level. But if you want to scale your game and you want to do it in a way where it's notably easy to change later on, easy to understand, at the same time you can probably add it anywhere. For example, this part is only maybe related to attacking, but if you want to add dodging or blocking, which is common in a buffer because you might want to be able to dodge during a montage or at the beginning of a montage or even block. So depends how crazy you wanna go with this, but we can implement a universal type of system where it doesn't rely on specific variables like save attack. Attacking is very specific here. Plus attack count is also might be specific because attack count for a light attack might be different than a special attack or even a heavy attack. So you might have to think when to reset the value, when to add to the value, when did the player go from one combo to another, and when did the player start dodging. So you might have like a reset combo that has 9 variables to reset, and that's not very friendly. So the things I want to showcase here is the notifies and how it's related to the reset combo. It's important to understand how it works first so we can tackle the issue itself. So we have the save attack, which will call this function, combo attack save, which will allow you to move to the next attack count. Now, the attack count itself is increasing only if you are in a specific value. So by default this is 0, and if you start from 0, it will set the attack count to 1, so it prepares for the next time you try to execute the animation. So if it's 0, it goes to 1, and then it plays the animation and so on. What we want to do here is first I want to showcase some things in the Souls game project, and on this we have something related to right mouse and dodge button, which is specifically space. Now I have it enabled on the beginning of a frame, but it ends here. But if you want to implement something like that under this logic, you're gonna have to implement another what do you call it, buffer, and the buffer should be enabled by default. It doesn't start here, but actually ends here. So this is the opposite of this one, and it has to take into account when does it start, when does it end, and which montage am I allowed to do this and which montage I'm not allowed to do this. So it's not very friendly in that sense. So we're gonna have to adjust it into a notify state. Now the difference between a state and a regular notify, this is an example, this is a regular notify. It has only one point and that's it. However, in the state scenario you have a start and an end point. And these two are important to determining when can something happen and when does it end. For example, in this light attack specifically, this is just theory, don't focus too much on the detail. I want to allow dodge and block input to be enabled on the very beginning only. So if you click block while you are starting the montage, I want to give the player a little bit of forgiveness where he will cancel from attacking to block right away. But after a certain point, say for example here, you don't want to go back to give the player that chance to block because he's already committed to the attack. So by this point, it's over. So you can get hit from this point to the end if you want, but he's not gonna cancel from the montage after this point. So a starting and ending point is important. So we can start with that one, but since this video is already too long, I'm gonna end it here. So the next video will be covering how to implement a regular notify and how we can connect this to some things like we want in the next video. So see you guys in the next one.